Hey friend, Carolee here. This is the final episode of the Streamlined CEO Podcast. Not because the message no longer matters, because it certainly does, but because I've decided to walk my talk. If you've been around for a while, you know this podcast has been my space to tell the truth about what it really takes to run a business that doesn't run you into the ground. We've talked about systems, burnout, delegation, hiring, growth, and a whole lot of the messy middle, including my own personal experiences, right? But this season is calling me to show up differently. And that means stepping back from this mic so I can go deeper where it matters most and where it feels really aligned to me right now. So more on this in a little bit, okay? But first, I want to leave you with one last lesson, okay? That listening to this podcast episode is not going to be a waste of your time by any means. It's one last gut punch, one last gut check, I should say, really, and one final mic drop. Okay, this is going to be a nice mic drop episode. And of course, we're going to skip the fluff. So here we go. The system won't save you. You can hire the expert. You can map out the workflows. You can build the dream ClickUp dashboard with 14 color-coded folders, automated task triggers, and emojis that spark joy if you choose. But if you don't use the dang thing, if you keep pausing projects midstream without looping your team in, if you change directions every few days and expect your ops manager to keep it all together, if you swoop into tasks that were already delegated just because it's faster, here in quotes, you're not leading your business, okay? You're not leading your business. You're keeping your team stuck in confusion, and no amount of systems will clean that up. So right now, I have clients with gorgeous operational backends. Okay, we've got documented SOPs, we've got automated onboarding, we've got workflows, we've got things. We've even have weekly rhythms that were tested, optimized, and built to support the business long term. We've done the things. But here's the thing, it's not working. But because they're not following the system that was put into place to support them, because they're choosing chaos over consistency, this is what's happening to their teams, the people they brought in to support them. Their teams are constantly firefighting. Their ops manager, that would be me in most cases, looks like I'm dropping the ball. It really looks like I'm dropping the ball. And everything is in progress, but nothing is done. I'm going to go deeper. So let's be clear here. If you've built the system, if you've tested the system, you've gotten feedback on the system, and you still aren't using it, let that sink in if that feels like you. You're not being strategic. You're just going rogue. And this is what's happening to your team. They're stuck just putting out fires that you lit. And this one hits really, really hard because I'm a systems person. And I'm going to say this. The systems don't fail. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't failures in systems like tech, right? But systems themselves is a fundamental definition. The systems don't fail. People fail when they ignore the systems. Okay? Systems don't fail. People do when they ignore them. So, to break this all down, if things still feel really, really messy, even after investing in the right tools and the right support, it's not usually because your team isn't getting it, here in quotes, all right? And it's definitely not because the automations aren't fancy enough. It's usually because the expectations aren't aligned, they weren't communicated properly, boundaries aren't being held, and the follow through isn't consistent. And your team is left in limbo because You cannot delegate clarity. The processes are in your brain, right? The leadership, because you are the CEO. You cannot outsource leadership. If you are the CEO, you are in a position of power. You are in a position to lead. And if you are not leading, we do not have clarity. We do not have systems that work. We are lost in the messy middle. So, if you want a team and you want a business that runs efficiently and doesn't drain the life out of you, you have to step in as that CEO. Not just a creative, not just the visionary, the CEO. Okay? The CEO who does these things says what she or he means, holds the line when it matters, respects the systems that he or she helped build, and leads with decisions instead of indecision. You can ask for feedback, you can ask for brainstorming, you can ask the experts, but ultimately, you are the CEO, and what you say goes. That's a lot of power. That is a lot of power. And so, I'm going to say this one very fundamental value that I hold and that I share a lot, and it's become almost my mantra. Feedback is neutral. It's data for growth. So I'm going to dive into that before I continue on here because it's so powerful. Feedback is neutral. That means that when I'm given feedback, whether the feedback is to me or I'm giving it to someone else, it's neutral. It holds no positive nor negative energy. It's data, right? It's numbers. Yes, it might be in the form of words, but it's numbers. It's something, it's data. And that information, that feedback is allowing us to make decisions to grow the business. And it's also telling us what we should and should not do. So follow the data and don't allow feedback to make or break you. Go into feedback with curiosity, ask for clarity, and really dig into what that means for your decision-making skills. Because when you lead with indecision and your team doesn't feel like they could tell you exactly what they feel because you're not asking for the feedback, maybe, that's when you have complete chaos and they're running around with their heads cut off. Like they don't know what they're doing because there's not clarity and indecision. Half-done projects. Okay. So back on track here. To sum this up, if your team keeps coming back confused, it's not a them problem. It's a signal, right? If projects stall, it's not because of sabotage. It's a sign you need to re-clarify ownership and priorities. And if you're not leading with decision, that's going to be really hard to do. So that's what leadership actually looks like. And that's what creates the freedom. I constantly hear, I don't want to be in the day-to-day anymore. It just feels like this is never going to end. I'm just never going to get out of the rut. Are you following the systems? Are you leading with decision? I really want you to ask yourself that question. Are you asking the right questions? Are you going into things with curiosity, not blame? Are you allowing feedback to be neutral? Are you allowing feedback to be data for growth? So that's what creates that freedom. It's not another template necessarily. It's not another hire necessarily. And it's not necessarily another app. Tech cannot fix or mend or duct tape leadership. That only you can do that as the CEO. Investing in your own self-growth, being very clear, adapting my thought process of feedback is neutral, it's data for growth. Really stepping into that power, really being real, really offering that safe space for your team to give you feedback, really stepping into that leadership power. That's how we get on the right track. And more importantly, well, not more importantly, it's not more important, but additionally, you also need to follow the systems that were put in place specifically for your business to grow and thrive without burnout, without having to put out a bunch of fires. Do not waste that money that you invested, or that time that you invested, or the other person's time, or anyone that had taken part in it. Do not waste that time, because they were all put in place for a reason. We need to stick to them. We can refine them, but we need to use them consistently. All right? And so if you're listening and this has been like a I'm feeling very called out moment, good. Freaking good. That means you're ready for what's next. You're ready to make a change. You're ready to really step into that CEO power. You're really ready to lead. And that's the one thing that I'm doing too. I have been beating around the bush for months about whether or not this podcast was going to continue, whether or not it felt like the right avenue. And I was stuck in the trap of indecision. And I called myself out. Actually, one of my team members called me out. I'm gonna be real. I've given them that safety net, that feeling of feedback is neutral. They're like, hey, does this really feel like what you want to keep doing? Just doesn't feel like you got the energy in it anymore. And I didn't. So they called me out and I was like, thank you. And so I want to share what's next for me. What's next for the productivity impact? What's next for the Streamlined CEO podcast, right? The Streamlined CEO podcast is coming to an end. All of these episodes will still be available for you to listen to if you have loved them. And if you've loved how things have shifted in the last few episodes toward the end of this, we are going to be bringing it in other places. Okay, we're going to be diving deeper in this same type of content, right? The message is still needed, just going to be more in your face, like sassier and like just more me, more my vibes. I'm going to be on Instagram still. You can follow me over there. It's at The Productivity Impact. I love posting stories. I need to be consistent. I need to follow my own workflows and systems that I have in place to stay in flow with stories. But this is where I share, when I do share, unfiltered real-time operations, what's going on, how we can work together, all the things. Okay? And there's going to be way more truth problems in there too. You can join the email list. Now the email list, that's where the real fire is. The kind of truth that I just shared today, that's what goes out weekly, all right, in my emails, things that I don't normally share publicly. We've got strategy, we've got support options in there, we've got spicy insights, all the behind the scenes stuff. It's the stuff I don't share publicly. You will not find it on any podcast episode. You will not find it on YouTube. You will not find it in stories. Nothing like that. Maybe stories, but that's because they disappear in 24 hours, but you will not find it anywhere except for in that email. So go join the email list as well. And you can also join me on YouTube. YouTube has been one of my favorite platforms because I can share tutorials, I can share walkthroughs of different resources, I can give reviews, comparisons, things like that. It's operations in action. You can visually see it, right? And that is where I'll be spending most of this time. Yes, this technical podcast also is on YouTube. But there's nothing fancy done to any of the videos. It's still just me talking as I'm recording. All right. So again, this podcast will stay live. The episodes will still be here when you need them. But for now, I am following the system I built. I am finally making this decision once. I am going to hold this boundary that I have made with myself, that this is taking away too much time and it does not feel in alignment any longer. And I'm focusing on what is going to move the needle next. Okay. And so I want to tell you, thank you for listening, especially if you've been a long-time listener. This podcast has been live for 2 full years, and we crossed over the 100 mark not that long ago. But thank you for trusting me. Thank you for building something, allowing me to build something that truly matters. And I really hope that you are going to still follow along, either on Instagram, joining the email list, or YouTube, or all the things. My DMs are always open as well. So I'm still going to be here, still going to be your Ops BFF. I'm just going to be showing up in different places. And so I want to leave you with this. Systems create freedom, but only if you use them.